I knew I'd messed up the moment the map vanished. 1 second it was in my back pocket, a crumpled lifeline smudged with coffee and sweat, the next, gone, like it had been plucked by invisible fingers. I stood alone in the middle of that cursed forest, spinning in place, trying to find some sign of the trail, any trail, but everything looked the same. Endless trees like blackened ribs stretching toward a sky that had turned from golden dusk to bruised charcoal. My phone was a useless brick, no bars, no GPS, just a pulsing clock mocking me with each passing second. The flashlight I'd clipped to my pack flickered once, twice, then sputtered out like a dying breath. That's when the dark swallowed me whole, and something deep in my chest shifted, like a cord had snapped. The silence wasn't silent. There was a hum, low, vibrating through the mossy floor like something mechanical buried beneath. No wind, no birds, just that humming, and my breathing, sharp and fast, like I'd been running though I hadn't moved. I turned in slow circles, hoping my eyes would adjust, but the night was absolute. A thick black syrup. I couldn't even see my own hands, only feel the cold sweat soaking the fabric of my shirt. And then, light. Faint, warm, golden. Just ahead, between two crooked trees. A single pinpoint, as if someone had left a candle in the forest, waiting. My first thought should have been fear, but it wasn't. It was relief. That stupid, aching kind of relief you get when you've been holding your breath too long. I walked. Carefully at first, then faster. My boots sank slightly with each step, the ground too soft, too wet. But I didn't care. I wanted that light. Needed it. I kept walking. 5 minutes, maybe 10. But it never got closer. It didn't retreat either. It just stayed. Hovering at the same distance. Suspended like an eye, watching. When I stopped, it stayed still. When I moved, it did too. I should have turned around. I should have run. But when I looked back, there was nothing. Not the path, not the trees, not even my own footprints. Just more black. A kind of void, as if the forest had closed behind me. That was when I first felt it. The knowing. That I wasn't alone anymore. Something else had come with the dark. I don't remember when I started running. Maybe it was the cold on my back, like fingers brushing my spine. Or maybe it was the sound, a faint rustling, not of leaves, but breath. The forest had lost all natural rhythm. No cicadas, no owls. Just that hum, and that, breathing. I tripped on a root and landed hard, palms digging into dirt that smelled like iron. When I looked up, the light was still there. Same distance. Same glow. I wasn't getting anywhere. But I couldn't stop. Not now. If I stopped, I knew whatever was behind me would catch up. There's a kind of horror that doesn't scream. It waits. Quiet and patient, like a shadow standing at your bedroom door. I felt it watching every step I took. I imagined it smiling. My thoughts were getting twisted, like I was remembering things that hadn't happened. A cabin. A mirror. Blood on my hands. I shook it off, but it came back stronger. A scream caught in my throat, not from me. I swear I heard it, somewhere off to the side, soft, like it was buried. I turned, flashlight dead in my fist, and for a second I saw something move. Pale and fast, between two trees. Not an animal. Human. Maybe. Bare feet. Hair too long. A grin that cut too wide across its face. I froze. Didn't even breathe. The light stayed in front. The thing was behind. I took a step toward the glow again. Then another. And it moved. Finally. Closer now, but not by much. Just enough to tease. I started walking faster, then jogging, until I was sprinting, heart slamming into my ribs, lungs burning, vision narrowing until there was only the light. I should have caught it. I should have reached it. But the more I ran, the more the forest bent. Trees leaned inward like they were trying to whisper, or grab. My boots got heavier, every step harder than the last, like I was moving through wet cement. My breath fogged in front of me, though the air wasn't cold. Then, the ground opened. I didn't fall. I sank. Like the earth inhaled and I was part of it. I clawed at roots, at stones, dirt under my nails, but something held me in place. And the light was right above me now, close enough to reach if I could just move. But I couldn't. I could only watch as it hovered. A shape began to form around it, faint, blurry. Shoulders. A face. Empty eyes. The light wasn't a light. It was a mouth. Smiling. I don't remember climbing out. I don't remember anything for a while. I woke up cold and dry, on pine needles that hadn't been there before. The trees were still black, but the hum was gone. The light, too. I stood. My legs held. Somehow. I turned slowly, expecting to see something, anything, but the forest was still. Normal. Too normal. I checked my phone. No signal. Time frozen. 3:12. No AM, no PM. Just 3:12. I walked. This time, I didn't run. My thoughts were clearer, but emptier. Like the noise had been scraped out. There were still no footprints. No trail. Just the feel of eyes behind me, always just out of sight. I knew not to look. Knew it the way you know not to touch a stove that's glowing red. I walked for hours, maybe days. It never got lighter. Never got darker. Just the same eternal twilight. My watch ticked. My feet moved. And eventually, I saw it again. The light. Not ahead this time. Beside me. At eye level. I didn't approach. Didn't flinch. I stood there, staring. It blinked. Once. Then hovered past me, slow, deliberate, weaving between the trees like a lure. I didn't follow. Not right away. But it didn't go far. It circled, drawing shapes in the air, and I saw them again, the pale figures, grinning, always watching, always behind. Never touching. Never speaking. Just there. Like shadows frozen in place. Every time I turned too fast, they disappeared. But the air remembered them. It tasted like copper and ash. That was when I realized something was wrong with me. I couldn't remember my name. Couldn't remember what I did for a living. Where I lived. Who I loved. Only this forest. Only the light. My memories had turned to static, replaced by flashes, the mirror, the blood, the mouth. I pressed my hands to my chest, felt my heartbeat skip, stutter, then smooth out again. The light pulsed once more. Closer now. I turned toward it. And walked. I didn't ask where it was leading. Because by then, I knew. It wasn't leading me anywhere. It was waiting for me to arrive. And behind me, nothing. No footsteps. No shadows. Just the absence of ever having been. I was the last light. And even I was fading. I should have turned around the moment I stepped off the gravel road. But I didn't. I thought I was smarter than fear, tougher than silence. There was no way I could have known how wrong I was, not until I saw that thing at the edge of the path, where trees grow too close and the sun forgets to fall. It didn't move when I stopped. It didn't even blink, though I couldn't swear it had eyes. Just a black outline, blurry at the edges like a smudge on a cracked screen. The air felt thick, like syrup, and I remember how my breath came out too slow, as if time had tripped and fallen somewhere behind me. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I just stood there and waited, not for it to go away, but for myself to understand what I was actually looking at. I think a part of me knew even then, the forest was no longer a place I was walking through. It was a place walking through me. It had started simple. I'd driven north for some silence, real silence, not just the absence of city noise. a kind of emptiness you could feel in your bones. I parked the car near an abandoned ranger station where the boards over the windows had faded into the same gray as the birches that leaned against it. The air had that cold, damp smell of moss and wet wood, and I could hear birds for the first 10 minutes. They chirped high in the trees, careless, until they didn't. I didn't notice right away. It was gradual, like a faucet being twisted shut, a drop at a time. Then, all of a sudden, it hit me, there was nothing. No rustle. No hum. Even the wind had vanished. The trail was narrow, like it hadn't been used in years, maybe decades. Brambles clawed at my jeans, and I kept thinking I heard something behind me, but every time I stopped, it stopped too. Just my imagination, I told myself. Probably a deer. Maybe a fox. But there was nothing, not even the low buzz of a fly. I looked up and realized the treetops didn't sway. Not even a whisper. And then I noticed something worse, my steps. They didn't sound right. Every footfall landed with a dull thud, like I was walking across wet carpet, or inside a padded room. I even tried to cough, just to make a sound, and it came out flat, like my throat was underwater. That's when the dread settled in my stomach, cold and coiled. Something wasn't right. Something was very wrong. I slowed down, squinting into the dimness ahead. The forest wasn't dark, not exactly. It was just colorless. The greens were gray. The browns were black. Even my own hand, when I held it up, looked desaturated. Then I saw it. Standing at the bend in the trail, where the path dipped into a hollow. Not moving. Not breathing. A shape, darker than the trees around it, not solid but wrong. Like looking at static that had grown legs. I froze. My brain refused to label it, couldn't decide if it was human or animal or shadow or all three. It didn't step forward. It didn't vanish. It stayed. And that's what terrified me more than anything. I turned and walked. Slowly. I didn't run. I don't know why. Maybe I thought it would chase me. Maybe I thought if I acted calm, it would leave me alone. But it didn't. I knew, somehow I knew, it had started walking too. My phone was useless. No signal. The screen wouldn't even turn on. It was as if the forest had swallowed electricity along with sound. Every tree I passed looked the same, like I hadn't moved at all. I should have reached the clearing in under 10 minutes, but time didn't behave here. I kept going. Kept listening for my steps, for anything. But the silence was heavy, not peaceful, but forced. Like something was pressing on the world from the inside out, squeezing the noise away. I glanced over my shoulder once. Just once. And it was closer. Not fast, just nearer than it had been before. Same shape. Same static blur. But now I thought I could hear it. Not a voice. Not a footstep. Just a vibration in my skull. A low hum, like the sound you hear in a nightmare right before you wake up. Eventually, I stopped walking. My legs refused to go on. The trees ahead looked like a painted wall, not real. Not even three-dimensional. So I stepped off the path. Into the woods. Through tangled roots and under hanging moss that felt like skin. I don't know how long I wandered. Could have been minutes. Could have been hours. But eventually, I found something, a cabin. Or maybe a shack. Barely standing. Its windows were broken, its door off its hinges. I stepped inside. And everything changed. The silence shattered. I heard everything, wind in the branches, birds far off, my own heart pounding like a drum. It was a flood of sound, too much all at once. I dropped to my knees, gasping, as if I'd been drowning and had finally broken the surface. But even in that moment, I knew I wasn't safe. The air inside the shack was different, sour and thick, like old sweat and dead leaves. There were scratch marks on the walls. Deep, frantic. Some horizontal. Some vertical. I tried to tell myself it was just raccoons. Just rot. but the truth was leaking into my thoughts like smoke. I hadn't escaped the thing. I had stepped where it wanted me. I didn't hear the door close behind me. I just noticed it was closed. I stood, slow, and turned. The doorway was empty. But the room wasn't. There was a mirror on the far wall, cracked and covered in dust. My reflection stared back. But it didn't move when I did. It didn't breathe. And behind me, the shape waited. I left the shack, or maybe I didn't. The world outside didn't feel like the same forest anymore. Trees leaned in, closer. Shadows dragged themselves across the dirt like smoke in reverse. I walked, because that was the only thing I could do. But I wasn't alone. I knew I wasn't alone. Sometimes, when the wind dies and the night is too quiet, I hear it. That hum. That underwater silence that presses on the chest like grief. It's not just in the woods anymore. I've heard it in the parking lot of the grocery store. In the middle of a crowded bar. In my own apartment. Just for a second, a flicker of static at the corner of my eye. A shape that isn't there when I turn. But I know it's still with me. I brought something back. Not because I wanted to. Not because I called it. But because it followed. That forest didn't let me leave empty-handed. I was too curious. Too desperate for quiet. Too confident that I could handle it. And now, every time I blink, I see the edge of that trail. Every silence feels deeper than it should. Every shadow longer. And I know, one day, I'll hear my own footsteps fade, replaced by something else. Something quieter. Something patient. Because the thing that followed me, it never left. It's just waiting for me to stop pretending I can escape. I don't know what I dug up. Maybe I didn't even dig. Maybe it found me first. All I remember now is that moment, cold sweat clinging to my skin, heart pounding in my throat as I stood barefoot on forest soil that pulsed under my feet like something breathing. The air had that thickness to it, like just before a thunderstorm, except there was no storm. Just silence. No birds. No wind. Just that awful, drawn-out beat under my tent floor that felt like something clawing its way up through the dirt. I kept telling myself I was dreaming. But I wasn't. And now, weeks later, I still hear it when I close my eyes. Like something's waiting beneath me. Still digging. I'd chosen that campsite because it was supposed to be remote. Off the trail, untouched, quiet. I was done with cities, with people, with the noise of things that pretended to matter. I needed space to unravel in peace. So I parked the Jeep about a mile away and hiked in with a pack, a tent, and a bottle of cheap bourbon. The tree was the first thing I saw. Dead but not. Its bark was bone gray, gnarled like dried skin, and its limbs twisted up into the sky like arthritic fingers. I swear, when the wind blew, those branches didn't sway, they reached. I set up camp under it anyway. I told myself it was a tree like any other. But something about it whispered wrong. Like the earth around it was bruised. That first night I drank too much, sitting by the fire, staring at the tree's silhouette against the moon. The flames cracked and spat like they were warning me. The darkness beyond was full of silence that pressed in too tightly, like something listening. At some point, I crawled into the tent, zipped it up, and passed out, face first into the sleeping bag. I don't know how long I slept, but it was the sound that woke me. A slow, deliberate thump from underneath. Not outside. Not wind. Not footsteps. From beneath. The ground moved. I froze. It came again, thump, thump, thump. Steady. Unnatural. Not like roots shifting. More like fists. Or tools. I bolted out of the tent in one breathless motion, nearly twisting my ankle as I stumbled into the clearing. The night was colder than I remembered, and darker too. No stars. No moon. Just that massive tree looming over everything like a warning carved in wood. I stared down at the soil. It looked untouched, smooth, undisturbed, but I could feel it. Something still moving. I stood there until my feet went numb, watching nothing, waiting for something to happen that never did. When dawn came, I found only my own footprints in the soft dirt. But there were others now. Smaller. Bare. Circling mine like a game. I told myself I must have sleepwalked. That I dreamed the sound. That maybe animals had sniffed around my tent. But those prints were human. Too small to be mine. No shoes. No claw marks. Just 10 tiny toes, pressed deep into the earth, dancing around me like they'd been waiting all night. Watching. That should have been enough. I should have packed up. Should have hiked out. But something in me stayed. Something curious, or stupid, or maybe already tangled in the roots of that cursed place. I spent most of that second day trying to distract myself. Boiling coffee. Sharpening a stick like it meant something. I didn't stray far. I couldn't. Every time I moved more than 10 feet from the tree, I'd get that tight feeling in my chest, like something pulling invisible strings through my ribs, drawing me back. I tried to shake it, but the tree just stood there, patient, watching me. And the weirdest thing? I couldn't remember what direction I'd come from. No trail. No markers. No jeep. It was like the forest had swallowed the path I walked in on. Everything looked the same, trees, moss, rocks, repeating like a bad dream. No echoes. Just silence that went on forever. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat up by the fire with the stick in one hand and the bourbon in the other, watching the dirt. I didn't blink. Not once. But just before dawn, I must have dozed off for a second because I woke up with ash in my lap and my hands empty. The stick was gone. The bottle was gone. And when I looked up, the fire had been smothered. There were footprints again. Dozens this time. All small. All bare. They weren't circling me now, they were leading away. Into the woods. I should have stayed at the camp. But I followed them. The trail twisted unnaturally, through brambles that didn't seem to have been there the day before. And the prints, they didn't go over roots or around rocks. They went through them. Right through solid things like they weren't real. Or maybe like the ground bent for them. The further I followed, the quieter everything became. I couldn't even hear my own breathing after a while. I think I passed the same stone 3 times. Then I saw it, an old, sunken spot in the ground. A shallow pit. The size of a child's grave. The prints ended there. I dropped to my knees beside it. The soil was loose. Fresh. Like something had been unearthed. Or buried again. There was a smell, faint, sickly sweet, like rotting leaves and rust. I reached out without thinking, fingers sinking into the soft dirt, and the ground moved. It moved back. I swear I touched something cold. Something soft, like skin. But smaller. Fragile. I jerked away and scrambled backward, breathing hard, my ears ringing with a scream that I wasn't sure came from my mouth or somewhere deeper underground. The pit pulsed once, like it exhaled, then went still. I ran. I didn't stop to gather my gear. Didn't look for the jeep. I just ran until the trees blurred and my lungs burned and I collapsed, somewhere, anywhere else. And yet, I woke up by the tree. Again. The same spot. Same scorched fire pit. My footprints in the same place. And next to them, the smaller ones. This time they didn't circle. This time they stood still. One set. Facing mine. Like a child waiting for me to speak. I didn't leave after that. I wanted to. But every time I tried, the forest folded in on itself. I'd walk in one direction for hours only to end up back at that tree. My food ran out. My voice grew hoarse from yelling. No birds. No planes. Nothing. Just me, the twisted tree, and the sound, That slow, steady thumping beneath the soil. Louder now. Closer. I started talking to it. Apologizing. For what? I didn't know. Just a gut feeling that I'd broken something I shouldn't have touched. On the 7th day, at least I think it was the 7th, I woke up to find the tent collapsed and the pit freshly dug again. No shovel. No tools. Just a hole that hadn't been there the night before. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just watched as the soil shifted. A small, pale hand rose from it, limp and boneless like something drowned. It twitched once, then retreated. The pit closed over it like nothing had happened. Like it was just saying hello. I don't know how I got out. I just remember waking up on the shoulder of a back road, barefoot and shivering, mud caked to my skin. A trucker found me and drove me to the nearest town. Said I kept muttering about children underground. About a tree with breathing roots. They pumped me full of sedatives and gave me a hospital bed. Told me I'd had a breakdown. That I wandered into the woods and lost my mind. But they didn't see the marks on my legs. Thin scratches. Perfect lines. Like tiny hands had been pulling me down night after night. They faded after a week. But not the sound. I still hear it. When I'm alone. When everything's quiet. That slow, rhythmic digging. And the whisper behind it. Calling me by name. I think I left part of myself back there. Or maybe something came with me. Something small. Hungry. Patient. It doesn't want to hurt me. Not yet. It just wants me to go back. To finish what I started. And some nights, when sleep creeps in like fog and I feel the weight of dirt on my chest, I dream I'm standing by that cursed tree again. The roots shifting beneath my feet. The hole open. Waiting. And this time, I'm not afraid to jump in.